I told you I didn't belong here anymore. That's the very first thing she said when I opened the rusty gate to my grandfather's land after 10 long years away. Imagine that 10 years spent in hospitals with my mom holding her hand through every treatment until her last breath, and the first thing I hear when I come home is a stranger, a so-called HOA president, trying to erase everything my family built. And if that wasn't enough, she brought a fake cop waving a bootleg court order trying to kick me off my own land like I was some squatter. Driving through Maple Grove that morning felt like driving straight into a memory. My old pickup rattled down the gravel road, each crunch under the tires tugging loose bits of childhood I thought I'd buried. The houses were pristine now, lawns trimmed like they were auditioning for a magazine spread, but my grandfather's oaks still stood thick and weathered guardians over the little corner lot he carved out decades ago. The place looked smaller than I remembered, but the pain felt bigger. A plastic sign stapled to a stake screamed, "Disputed Boundary." Bright construction tape cut across the entrance like crime scene ribbon. That land was mine, deeded to me sealed by the county, and yet here I was staring at it as if I had to prove it all over again. That's when she appeared. Malene Pierce, HOA president in stilettos and a blazer striding out of her colonial-style house like she owned the whole damn street. She pointed at me like I was an intruder. "You can't just waltz back here after deserting the property. This belongs to the community now." Her words dripped with authority like she'd been rehearsing them in the mirror. I pulled out my phone, showed her the PDF deed with the county seal, and pointed at the concrete markers my grandfather and I set when I was just a kid. "This land's never had an easement," I told her, voice steady even as my hands shook. She smirked like the truth was just a minor inconvenience. Then came the so-called officer. Derek Holt, dressed in tactical navy blues, insignia stitched across his chest, radio crackling like something out of a TV cop show. He handed me a thick piece of paper with golden embossed letters. Mitchell and Associates. Looked official at first glance, heavy paper stock, sharp formatting. But something was off. "Sir, this is a legal directive," he said, holding out a clipboard. "Sign here to acknowledge you'll stay off the property while it's resolved." My heart sank. 10 years of exhaustion of medical bills and sleepless nights weighed heavy on me. A part of me wanted to just sign, walk away, avoid another fight. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was just clinging to something that was gone. But then I remembered my grandfather's voice. Measure twice, cut once. Always read the fine print. My eyes caught the hidden clause waiver of all future claims. This wasn't temporary. Signing this meant I was surrendering my rights forever. My chest tightened, anger cutting through fatigue. I looked at Derek and asked, "What court issued this? Where's the seal, the case number?" He shifted uncomfortably. He wasn't law enforcement. He was a hired gun private security dressed up to look like authority. I pulled out my phone and started live streaming. "We're live," I said, aiming the camera at the bogus papers. "Here's the deed. Here are the concrete markers 30 years in the ground. Tell me where the easement is." Derek froze, radio buzzing but offering no answers. Malene's voice rose in pitch. "This easement has existed for decades," which was funny considering she'd only lived here for 5 years. Just when I thought it was me against the world, help came from the unlikeliest place. Rebecca Shaw, the HOA treasurer, approached cautiously from across the street. She leaned in and whispered, "I never approved these payments." The board didn't vote on legal enforcement. She pulled up spreadsheets on her phone line items for security services, legal consultations. Thousands of dollars siphoned without authorization. My chest tightened again, but this time with relief. Someone inside knew the truth. Then, another surprise, Nadia Brooks, a licensed surveyor who just happened to live next door, walked over in her work boots and vest. She studied the concrete markers, opened her tablet, and pulled county GIS records on the spot. "These markers line up exactly with the legal boundaries. There are no easements here," she said flatly. Her words cut through Malene's shouting like a scalpel. Suddenly, it wasn't just me anymore, it was professionals' records hard proof. Still, the fight escalated. At the community meeting, Rebecca projected the financial records onto a giant screen. Security services unauthorized. Legal action fund unauthorized. Residents shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. Voices rose from the back. You spent our dues on this. Without a vote, Derek stood in full tactical gear by the wall, his confidence unraveling as neighbors stared. He leaned toward the real deputy who'd shown up and muttered, I think I've been set up. But Malene wasn't done. She tried to go further. I got a late-night alert from my security camera, a figure creeping into my grandfather's shed with a flashlight. I rushed over phone recording the whole time and caught a young man loading old tools and fake community signs inside. When the light hit his face, I froze. He was Malene's son. Mom said you stole community property. I'm taking it back, he spat. I shook my head. This is breaking and entering, not community service. And then he admitted it, the truth that cracked the whole thing open. Mom's been fighting this since your grandfather beat her in court 30 years ago. She swore she'd get it back. It hit me like a punch to the gut. This wasn't about community. It wasn't about easements. It was a decades-old grudge dressed up as civic duty. A personal vendetta passed from mother to son. And here I was living it all over again. Derek, to his credit, showed up when I called him. He saw the break-in, heard the son's confession, and his face hardened. I signed up for security, not conspiracy, he said, pulling out his phone to call the deputy. Watching him flip from enforcer to witness was surreal. The police processed the shed like a crime scene, photographing the planted evidence, fingerprinting the props. Malene arrived just in time to watch her son cuffed and her scheme collapsing in front of flashing red and blue lights. Court was the final nail. The judge reviewed my deed, the survey, the markers, the county maps. No easement recorded, she said, banging the gavel. Malene's claims shredded under scrutiny. Her son faced charges for evidence tampering and breaking and entering. The HOA board stripped her of her presidency and ordered her to repay thousands in misused funds. She stood there, pale, trembling, the power draining from her as fast as the community's respect. I didn't feel joy watching her fall. I felt tired but vindicated. Tired of fighting battles I never asked for, but proud I hadn't let my grandfather's work be erased. The concrete markers he and I set decades ago stood tall again this time, backed by court confirmation. My neighbors repainted the shed, scraping off her lies to reveal his initials etched in wood. And I thought truth doesn't vanish just because someone tries to bury it. In the end, Malene lost everything: her position, her reputation, even her illusion of control. I walked back across the boundary line, fingers brushing the cool concrete of the marker, hearing my grandfather's words echo in my head. Measure, twice cut once. He was right. Proof beats lies. Every time. And that's the lesson: authority isn't real if it isn't backed by truth.